1, 2, 3, 4.
Hello and welcome back to another edition of Laid on the Table, the Southern Board Game Podcast with the accent on Southern. As usual, I am one of your hosts, Joe Mahaffey, and of course,
I'm your other host, James Engelhardt. It's good to be back, man.
It is good to be back. I feel like it's been 2 weeks?
I know. We're on a roll, man.
Time is fun when you're having flies. Well, listen, usually this is the part of the show where before we get into it, I remind everybody that Mythicon is going to be the weekend of November 10th through the 12th at the Hilton Charlotte University Place. But instead of getting into all that this time, we are very fortunate to have Richard.
Which you just did anyway, which is awesome.
I know, which I did anyway, but I didn't give a website or anything like that. But we are very fortunate today to have two guests, Richard Fortuna, also known as Tuna, and Nick Polimas, who are organizers of the show. They have agreed so graciously to come on today and talk to us about Mythicon. And for those of you who don't know, this is the first time that this particular event has been held in Charlotte under the name Mythicon. Many of you would know it in the past as Mace, which was a long time con, and we'll let the guys talk to us about that. And of course, last year at this time, they were doing Jeff Con in honor of Jeff, who was the original founder, whose last name escapes me, but I'm going to let these two gentlemen correct me. So Jeff Smith. Richard and Nick, welcome to Lay It on the Table.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, we are very excited about Mythicon.
Yeah, we're glad to be back.
Yeah, we're glad that you're coming back, and we're glad that Charlotte's going to have this really nice event. So let's talk about Mythicon. For the uninitiated, maybe somebody who didn't go to Mace or Jeff Con, what could we expect at Mythicon in November?
All right. Well, Richard, if I may,
go for it.
I'll give us our short little intro here, but basically tabletop games. We do everything that's non-electronic, right? So we're going to do board games, card games, miniature games, crafting, RPG games especially. We love our RPGs. And that's what we're all about.
Well, that sounds great. Is there any particular showcase game that's going to be featured this year, or is it just what everybody's bringing to the event?
Well, actually, the big showcase this year is going to be Savage Worlds. For those who are longtime Mace attendees, you may remember we used to have some big Savage Saturday nights. Well, we've partnered with our friends over at Pinnacle again, and we are going to be hosting a Savage Saturday night this time. So, and there are quite a few Savage Worlds games on the docket for this time. So we are very excited to get that ball rolling again.
Oh, that sounds great. And I can imagine that of a few people that I know that might be a part of that as well. Cool. So in terms of getting ready for this year, have you guys run into any pitfalls or any challenges?
I don't know. Not really.
Awesome.
One of the things that's really, really nice about kind of picking up where Jeff left off is that we already kind of have a fairly solid base of both game masters and players who want to see this continue. So we've been very fortunate in that we've been able to bring along a lot of the game masters who've been coming to Mace for the last 25 years. I've been going to Mace since probably about 18 years ago ish.
Wow, you're old.
Oh yeah. Tell me about it. Every year I keep getting reminded, but yeah, so we have a lot of GMs who are returning from previous Maces. We have even some celebrity game masters. DM Scotty's coming back again.
Nice.
And I think Wylock from Wylock's Armory, who's also one of our crafting VIPs, is coming back, and I think he's running games and participating in the crafting as well. So we've got quite a bit of quite a large following that's kind of coming along for the ride. But at the same time, with the end of Mace, we've been trying a little harder to let people know that that we are still around, that the convention hasn't ended, even though last year Jeff Con was touted as the last Mace, and technically that was true.
Sure.
Because we weren't carrying the Mace name forward, but we do want everybody to know that hopefully the spirit of Mace is still alive and well with Mythicon.
Well, and you guys did get to do a bit of a shakedown cruise, if I recall, last spring up in Asheville.
Right.
So this is technically the second Mythicon, or still the first, but.
Yeah, it's our first year. Yeah, it's our second convention that we're running ourselves. So Mythicon West was up in Asheville back in March, for those who didn't catch your last episode about that. But we ended up with oh gosh, I had the numbers right in front of me. So we had about 329 attendees for that one. And so it was a pretty good turnout, and 63 of those were game masters. So we had quite a few actual attendees show up, and they had something. We had 266 games on the schedule so far. For Mythicon next month, we're already up to 373 games on the schedule.
Wow.
And with over 100 GMs registered. So wow. We've got a bit of it's not, if you're looking for a 10,000 person con, you can go to Gen Con. This is our down home. This is our cozy little down home convention. And for those of us who've been going to it for a long time, it just feels like coming home every fall.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's awesome.
Seeing old friends and getting to game with your gamer friends that you sometimes only see at these cons, because they come from all over.
Yeah.
And it's much easier to see them, I guess, at a con like this than some of the ones that do have thousands of people. So.
Well, and I think too, as we've watched, and James and I talk about this a lot on this podcast. I mean, James has been actively gaming, for the last 20 plus years. My wife and I really discovered gaming in its current iteration right around 2018. It was when our kids were really out of the house and we were empty nesters staring at each other, wondering, what do we have in common? Hey, games. And then the pandemic struck. Yeah. And not only did we board game our way through the pandemic, we noticed that a lot of, people that have found the hobby because of the pandemic have come into play. Whether it's and it crosses the spectrum, whether it's the true board game, whether it's the tabletop role play game, or even some of the more. And I know you can use minis in that, but I think of Warhammer as a different type of mini game than, say, just like a D&D. People will probably say bad things about me in the comments below for saying that one way or the other. But anyway, just sort of seeing how that comes into play. Because I know personally I have not dabbled into to Warhammer per se, but I have dabbled into painting minis and on a larger scale. And so, I mean, there's just so much to this hobby that's therapeutic. I wonder how many of those, close to 400 attendees are some of those repeatable folks, or are you finding that you're getting some new signups, I guess is probably the right way to say it.
Hard to say. I won't say that I know everybody on the list because I don't. But yeah, we are trying to extend our promotion further afield. We've actually been, for the last few weeks, Nick and I have been, and our spouses have been doing the tour of the state, visiting game stores and getting to meet all of the game purveyors and get our name out there, and found some really nice game stores and spent way too much money because I found
our other
game
partner,
stores.
Dan, who's in the Raleigh area, he's been hitting that area.
Oh yeah,
too, so
that's true.
We've been really trying to hit all kinds of areas to try to broaden our reach So
I was in Atomic Empire last week. I wish I had known. I could have gone in there and dropped off materials.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I mean, we do get people coming from all over. So, Tennessee, Virginia, all of that. I mean, Georgia, it's not unheard of. And I'm just happy that they do come from, those distances because they've heard good things about the con. So,
yeah.
So I had a couple of just sort of, I don't know, more nuts and boltsies kind of thing.
Sure.
So between the two of you, is there a like, what's the structure for how y'all are working together for Mythicon? Is there another like little board that's putting stuff together, or is it just the two of you and ideas, or what's the structure you got?
There's 5 of us.
Okay.
And 5 of us that make up the Mythicon team. We have some wonderful volunteers who help us out as well.
Sure.
But ultimately, we just kind of, created a hive mind. I'm totally under the belief that some of us are Cylons. And we try to, just communicate together and come up with group consensus. And sometimes, we don't have the same ideas, but ultimately we do what's best for the con. And I think it's working out really well. I do want to add one more thing, though, because we have one other key member that I want to just talk about briefly. When you were asking about the challenges of starting this con, I have to say that everything that Richard said was absolutely accurate, but we had one leg up. We had one boost, and his name is Ron McClung. Ron McClung was the partner of Jeff Smith, and he assisted Jeff throughout. I don't know if it was all 25 years, if not most of them. Ron McClung was there handling gaming, and we couldn't have done this without him. He kind of guided us. He was, kind of like our Obi-Wan, and he definitely showed us the ropes. So I just want to, appreciate him on this, podcast, because without him, and he kind of talked to us. He had other people that he could have asked to do this con. He didn't want to see it go, and neither did we, because like I said, I feel like we've established a gaming family, and we didn't want our family to break up.
Well, it's 25 years, right? Was the first iteration, and then there's the Jeff Con, which is kind of the handoff, end of one era, beginning of another. I like the Phoenix there in the background. That seems appropriate for what's going on.
And actually, the Phoenix, you can't see it, but it's coming out of a cracked mace.
Nice.
Oh, nice. I didn't see that. Yeah.
So it is Mace Reborn.
That's nice. So, it sounds like, Richard, you've been there for a long time. Nick, you came along at some point going to Mace. Has it grown? Has it shrunk? Has it, what? I don't know the history of Mace at all. And I'm over here in Greenville, South Carolina. So I know Joe's over hanging out with y'all in Charlotte. But I'd love to know more about like how this all happened and what the story is.
Sure, absolutely. And we actually have, if you go out to our website, the company behind Mythicon, that is the 5 people is called Games for All Events LLC. So we're the company that is putting Mythicon on. But you can go out to our website, gamesforallevents.com, and there is an article out there that we wrote up, basically kind of giving the background of that. I'm trying to pull it up because originally it came from Jeff and Ron ran a convention back in, way back toward the beginning. They called it Rock of Ages.
It was in 1997, and it was in High Point.
Okay.
Yeah. It was a much smaller venue, and that's where it started. And then eventually, they kind of came in and they came to Charlotte and then to Asheville. And to be quite honest, Jeff was like really trying to do all kinds of crazy stuff. And
he had a cruise. He did the gaming cruises.
Oh, wow.
They had the Club Mace where they did cruises, and but then
he would do a mini mace at a Golden Corral.
Yep. Actually, interestingly enough, that's where Nick and I first met, was at a mini mace. Way back when. So
was it at the ice cream machine in the back of the Golden Corral?
Right.
Okay. Oh yeah. But yeah. So and the convention actually started out. It was called Rock of Ages, ROC of Ages, and I think it was originally hosted at a church. It was like a church venue. But it ultimately moved to the Radisson in High Point. That was when I joined it.
I see.
Was because I was living in Winston-Salem at the time, and then it came down to Charlotte later, and then they did Mace West, which was in Asheville. Well, actually, it was originally in Hickory, I think, but then it ultimately moved to Asheville, and then they tried to do Mace East. Which was at the in Wilmington at it was the battleship.
Oh yeah.
Wow,
North
okay.
Carolina. Right there.
But that didn't really pan out, so they didn't do it again.
It didn't end up being on a battleship. I believe that's what he wanted.
Right.
It ended up being a hotel or something nearby. But he really wanted the gamers to be on the battleship. But I don't think that actually panned out. We were at over there.
Yeah, so I didn't actually make that one.
Yeah. So quite the visionary. Also, I like the, and that's kind of amazing. He's like, I have all these different things. It's must have been an amazing guy.
Oh yeah.
But I'm also loving the way that you've got these two mythological birds then to sort of bracket the thing, right? Because you've got, if it's Rock of Ages, ROC, and now the Phoenix, it's a nice callback.
Yeah. Unintentional, but thanks.
Yeah, sure, man.
No, that's when you say, yeah, that's exactly what we were going for.
Thanks for noticing. Yeah,
Richard's
nice.
wife, Karen Montgomery, is the one who thought that up, and it was a brilliant idea. And she's just awesome with all of these, with the visual stuff. She really just does an amazing job.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I've been fortunate enough to be in a painting class with both Richard and Karen, and you're right, they're both. Not only are they great teachers and very patient teachers for people who are not artistic, but yeah, they're very creative.
Yeah, so she's a good painter. I am a prolific painter. I get stuff done. It's not nearly as good as hers. So she's much more talented than I am.
She is much more than good, Tuna. She is excellent. She's really well.
She's award winning.
I was going to say she's award winning. Yes, that is very true. So.
It's awesome. So when we're talking about upcoming November 10, 11, and 12, just some great details. Like when do events start? How does it go all night? What's kind of the vibe? What could we expect? How late does it go on the third day? I'm used to going to conferences and stuff where it ends at noon. So what's that all look like? What are you all hoping for?
So registration will open at noon on Friday. The first game session starts at 3. We learned our lesson from Jeff Con. We opened registration a little bit late and it ran a little long. So a few folks were a little late for their first session. So we're opening early this time so that everybody can get in there and get their badges and get to their first sessions. On Friday night and Saturday night, it'll run till midnight. First session on Saturday is 9 a.m. and same for Sunday is 9 a.m. However, registration will be open before that. I think we're aiming for 7 or 8. I think it's 7 or 8. Do you remember, Nick? I can't remember.
Good luck, guys.
Yeah,
we'll be up at that time, and we'll be registering whoever needs.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'll be there by 7 probably.
Our gaming sessions usually run in 4 blocks, 4-hour blocks if they're RPGs and stuff. And on Sunday, I believe that we end officially at 6 o'clock. So we kind of have to start ushering people out by 6. So it will be, 2 RPG sessions or 2 gaming sessions on Sunday as well.
Cool.
Well, and I really like the location for it because, number one, I don't think there's a football game that weekend for UNC Charlotte.
Well, that's good.
I think, I don't know. Y'all probably never had to worry about that until recently.
Oh, no.
Secondly, I love that the light rail pretty much will take you all the way to the hotel.
Yes.
So if you are in Charlotte and you don't need to stay and you don't want to worry about parking, although there's pretty ample parking around that Hilton, if I recall, but still being able to take the light rail to it is an ideal situation, the way Charlotte traffic can be sometimes. And so that's really cool. And I don't think it's a race weekend, so it's not hard to find a hotel. Is that right, James?
That is correct. No problem at all. So that's good.
So
yeah.
So yeah, I think that's a good spot for all those reasons.
And on the subject of the hotel, we still have rooms available in our room block. So if anybody is still wanting to get a discounted room, they are available. So please go register.
Awesome. So you talked about the fact that you're going to have board games, you're going to have RPGs. You talked about Savage World as sort of like one of the showcases. You also talked about the fact that you were going to have arts and crafts, and there was going to be painting and some other things. So talk about that. What if I was an aspiring gaming painter, whether it was minis or some of these people do the 3D printing with the busts.
Sure.
What can they expect?
The crafting. This is actually my wife's brainchild. She's been heading this up for well, actually Jeff did this as well, but Karen has kind of taken it over and run with it. But the highlight of the crafting weekend is Saturday morning. We're going to have a crafting competition where the contestants are given materials and a theme, and they need to build a diorama in about, I think it's 4 hours, 3 or 4 hours. So it's a
fire up the hot glue guns.
Exactly. Yes. We will have lots of hot glue guns going. But yeah, so that's trying to remember whether it was 12 or 15 slots we have open for that. I can tell you in a minute. But and by the way, pre-registration for games and events is open right now. So if you're interested in any of the things that I'm talking about, go register. But yeah, we have actually 20 slots available, so that's kind of the highlight or the main crafting event. We also have a new class for this year. A company called Terraintronics is coming, and they're going to be holding a class at Friday at 7 p.m. for folks who want to learn how to wire their terrain with LEDs.
Oh, I saw that. That sounded pretty slick.
Now, one kicker on that, you do need to go purchase their lighting kit. They're selling it through their Etsy store, but that is going to give you enough for tons of projects. I've looked at it, and it's very interesting. But that one's going to be interesting. I'm actually joining that one myself.
Awesome.
And then I am going to be teaching Slap Chop, which is miniature painting fast. And that one's happening on Saturday afternoon at 2 p.m.
Sure?
And then,
I thought that was a martial arts class.
Yeah. But and then we have just open, come in, chat, paint, and hang out throughout the weekend. So if you want to come in, we're going to have people in there, and if you want to use our materials, and we'll have plenty of paints and brushes and crafting materials. If you want to come in and just play around and learn how to paint or how to use a hot wire cutter or stuff like that, we'll have folks around there to help you out with that all through the weekend.
Oh, that's awesome.
That is awesome.
And it looked like you had a couple more sort of cerebral / creative events as well, sort of seminar track or a couple of talks.
Yes. We have, let's see what all has made it to the calendar now. So we've got how to design the perfect dungeon, geopolitical world building,
That's awesome.
behind the curtain with Runehammer. And we've got another RPG creative workshop with Runehammer. So there's quite a few seminars kind of geared toward making GMs making your game better.
Yeah, it sounded like that. That looked pretty fantastic.
Yeah.
And LARPs as well. I didn't dig too deep into the LARP thing. Are those is that going to sort of like run concurrently with everything else, or how does that track work?
As of right now, I don't think we have any on the schedule. We
Okay.
had the category out there.
Yeah, I saw that. I was like, ooh, what's that? So yeah.
One of the things about Mace and also about Mythicon is that our schedule is pretty much totally governed by our volunteers.
Sure.
So our GMs are volunteer GMs. If anybody wants to submit games, they can certainly do so. And if you're willing to commit to 12 hours of running time, then we'll let you into the con for free. That's basically
Nice.
the deal.
Sure.
So we've been able to kind of help people offset the cost of coming to the convention by running games for us. So, but unfortunately, that means that sometimes we don't get everything.
Sure.
So, in years past, though, we've had a room set aside that the LARPs can operate out of. And I believe that's still the situation now. If we have anything come up, we've got space available to put them in. So it does run concurrent with the rest of the convention.
Cool. And so it sounds like the schedule then is still kind of evolving. It's going to be a work that won't be like set in stone, or like at least mostly solidified, maybe more like Jello and less like stone until
pretty much.
Right then. Okay, cool. So keep looking back. So if you're looking for something, keep looking back.
Exactly, because we're going to keep game submissions up open all the way up to the convention. So there are going to be games added to the schedule all the way up.
While you guys have been talking, I just locked myself in for that LED one.
Okay, awesome. There it is.
I'll see you there because I'm doing that one myself.
As well as Darwin's Journey. I have the game. I've learned the game, but I'd like to learn it probably the right way.
Yes, always that.
But I am going to submit 2 games for Saturday and Sunday.
Oh, very nice.
And
cool.
What are you thinking about submitting?
So I was just telling Richard at the beginning of this. I'm a follower of DM Dave out in Oklahoma. He's been publishing a lot of new content, and one of his new pieces is called Badge Quest. And you're basically a group of Girl Scouts selling cookies, only they're not called Girl Scouts, they're called Blossom Scouts. And it's kind of like Girl Scouts meets Scooby-Doo. They're great, fun adventures. I've run it at the Mini Mythicon back in May that we did at Carolina Tabletop Games. Not a sponsor, but they should be.
They will be attending as a vendor.
I do know that. Yes.
They are.
Yes. No, I know. I'm just teasing. That's just sort of our catchphrase here. We love Rob over there, and we talk about his store a lot. But all kidding aside, I want to do Badge Quest because it's a great mechanic that he's put together that you can play under multiple systems. You can play it as a 5e. You can play it as a system that he's created, as well as he's adapted it to a few others. As you know, we've all watched this year as a lot of different tabletop role play mechanics have evolved because of of what we will not name. And so I like the fact that he's made something that's kind of versatile. He's had an active Kickstarter where he's putting together the hardback book, and he's got the minis you can print with it. I won't have any of that, but I do have the original source material, and it's just fun to run. So I think I'd like to do that. And then we interviewed Dan Halligan a few weeks ago. Dan is the game designer of Obsession, which has had the original release, I think it was 2018. Then they did an update to it that really was not so much an expansion as it was kind of rules clarification and additional features. And he's got a brand new Kickstarter that launches this week, I believe. It's a fun game. It's very much an Empire style game of Victorian England. And it's fun. And I think it's a great way to kind of bring somebody to the table where there's cards and there's meeples and there's, objectives and stuff. And I like to evangelize that game. And the only other game I really teach a lot of is Wingspan. And I think everybody knows that game by now.
Mm-hmm. So what's the process for submitting a game then to run at the con?
Nick, do you want to take the or?
I killed that one.
You just got to go to tabletop.events, fill out, what kind of game it is, RPG, whatever, click a couple of options there, and then we approve it, and it goes on our schedule. I mean, it's pretty straightforward, but there, again, there's a lot of people who might have not used tabletop events yet. So maybe that takes a little bit getting used to, but once that goes in there, we just approve it and put it on the schedule.
So I'm curious because I'm looking at the site now. I've been trying to find it just because I want to. No, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do that during this call.
Sure.
But I am going to set up those two games when we're done. I see. I'm over here at events. Look at book your Attention Game Masters event submission is open. There's a link that takes me to guidelines, but I don't see something to submit off of.
If you go to the host drop down at the top, there's
it.
an option under that for submissions.
Oh, look at that. See, if I had the knowledge, I would have known.
I thought we had a link that went straight to it. I will have to.
I don't see
to correct that on the homepage there.
Good to have these conversations.
I don't see.
Yeah. I mean, somehow 111 GMs have figured it out. So I don't know.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's a good thing I'm not in IT. I'd be really embarrassed.
So this is a learning curve for us too. You know,
it is. Yeah. It is. We are learning a lot this year.
I bet.
And also, tabletop.events is new for us and for the Mace crowd as well, because previously we were using a custom solution that was built by Ron and called Ogre, the
nice.
open gaming registration engine. And so that was retired with the handoff. The last time Ogre was used was for Jeff Con last year. And after that, it's been retired, and we're using tabletop.events, which is kind of becoming the de facto standard. It's like that one and Warhorn as far as the platforms for that. But we're learning a lot about what that system can do, because it is very robust. There's a lot to do with it, including managing vendors and exhibitors and all that sort of nifty stuff, which that's something we haven't really talked about. And
I was going to ask about exhibitors. Yes.
Nick has been graciously handling our vendors for us. So he can tell you a lot about that.
Oh, well, you know, basically with our vendors, we're trying to get people, again, very much on theme, very much trying to, you know, relate to what we're doing here, which is all kinds of geekery, but, you know, mostly dealing with our tabletop and our gaming community. So we have just a lot. Right now, we had a huge influx of applications, which is great because, you know, people are hearing about us. But we have pretty much 21 spots available. They are all filled.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, people have been applying for a while now. And there's going to be several game stores, including Carolina Tabletop.
Hooray.
And,
And Walt's Cards, who's been
is going to be there.
And an OG, Mace vendor.
Nice.
He's been around with the Mace, for many, many years.
So I'm feeling Magic strongly with that, but other card games, other collectible.
And guys, we're not really.
Cards. He doesn't bring a lot of cards with him. It's mostly board games and RPGs and minis that he'll bring. Okay. And dice, lots of dice.
I was just going to say,
there are a lot of collectible dragons and stuff, but again, mostly from the D&D line. Sure. And they're going to have people there who do 3D prints and handcrafted goods and a hand masseuse, which is great because when we're rolling dice, you know, we all need a hand masseuse. There's going to be another game store as well, actually one that Richard might not be aware of yet, but called Pixie's Keep. They are a game store based out of York in South Carolina.
Oh, cool. Wow.
So then we will have 3 game stores represented there amongst our 20 members.
2 artists. We've got
Mirabelli Studios and Dave. Again, they do some pretty amazing art. Just a lot of different. We have Becca's Bits, Black Oak Workshop, which focuses on all sorts of wonderful dice, including glow in the dark dice and dice that activate with black light. Those are Richard's favorite. He carries a black. Wherever he goes, we could be at Outback Steakhouse, and he has a black light. It's weird.
It's weird. I don't know. I paint using blacklight paints on my minis. So I usually have a blacklight flashlight on.
That's
just to show off. But yeah, Black Oak, one of my favorites that they do is their gelatinous cube die, which each side of the die has different bits of like adventurers and stuff on it.
that's funny.
That's awesome.
They're very whimsical dice.
Awesome.
I was going to say I was going to say we are not sponsored here, so feel free to drop any store name or any vendor's name. It's not going to be a problem.
Oh, I could go on and on. Dicey Dungeon, Crafty Lycan, Roya Mira, Arty Crafty,
Soda City Art. Just a lot.
Gamma Ray Geek. It's just Fire and Dice, Candle Company, Stitch in a Story. There's a lot. And
awesome.
Actually the list is up on our tabletop.event site. So if you're going out and checking out the con, you can also check that out. We are also featuring all of these vendors and a lot of our sponsors and we through our social media and on our Games for All Events website. If you want to find out anything about the vendors we have coming up, that we have that out there too. We also
have one very unique vendor, which is the one that Richard spoke about briefly, who's doing a crafting demo, but Terraintronics. So he'll be selling his electronic stuff at the con.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So if you're interested in taking your terrain to the next level, then he'll be there to help with that. We're also going to have quite a few independent game developers who are going to be attending the convention to demo their games. So we've got Clarion Studios, who, if you've been around Mace for a while, you're familiar with them because they've been around for quite a bit. They do Hull Breach, but they're also going to be showing another game, Clockwork Cats. Let's see, we've got Rocket Fire, the space exploration board game. Twice Alive Games is bringing Midnight Zombie Sabotage, Art Dealers Without Manners, and there's Trash Dash by Parker Simpson, Don't Die by Terrible Games, Terrable, not T-A. And then Unyielding Universe by the board game Creative Collective. So, so we've got board game demos, from indie developers. So
we also have Double Exposure, who is supporting us and
Envoy,
giving us various games for our
play to win,
basically giveaway for through the Envoy program, which is terrific. So it's basically our play to win.
Right.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Well, is there going to be an open game? Oops, sorry.
I was just about to say that we are going to have a fairly large open gaming area, along with a lending library of games. Right now, we've got a little over 100 games in there. So just a few. So we'll have that available for folks as well.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Oh, that is awesome. Yeah. I think it's also good, when you're, people go to these events. Sometimes they go because they're an aficionado, and sometimes they want to go because they're learning, they're getting into it, and being able to.
And that's a good thing that I appreciate you saying that, actually, because one of the things that we tell all of our GMs is, we want you to be able to teach the game. So not only can you run a good game, but when people sit down to play it, most of our games, there's pre-generated characters. Our GMs are going to be patient and actually explain things as you go. A lot of times the person sitting next to you, I found them to be pretty awesome. And they're like, hey, let me point this out to you. So you shouldn't feel like, oh, my God, I don't want to play this game because I don't know the rules.
Right.
Most of us don't know the rules when we play all of these different games at the con. And so we are learning as well, even though we're avid gamers, but we don't know every game. And so come join us, learn something new. We are too. And your GMs will be nice and patient.
It's funny you mentioned that, because I think with each game, our gaming intelligence quotient goes up a little bit. I've noticed that I'm much more comfortable taking a set of rules now and figuring out a game, as opposed to relying on 3-minute board game or Rodney or any of those guys out there that are going to help you
watch it played.
Game. Exactly. I mean, it's just all of those, another Smith, all those ways to kind of learn. And And we talk about a lot on this podcast about how, there are certain mechanics that we see repeated over and over again with some nuance, but we also see the theme and the skinning and the sort of the theme of that kind of gives you a different experience. And that's one of the things that we love about a lot of the board games that we talk about on this particular podcast, as well as the games that we play. James and I are in a D&D group together, and we are both, have spouses that we've, suckered into, gotten to play games with us, and,
Ditto.
Yeah.
But we also find that there's some nuances to that. For example, listeners of the show will know that Dale and I like to play games where you don't have to be mean to each other to win, which is why Wingspan's a good game for us, or Obsession or Parks or any of those. And like we've been playing Mists over Carcassonne this week because it's Halloween, of course. So, you have to just find your way into that. Anyway.
I find a great way to get new people into gaming really is trying games like that are cooperative, because that's a different kind of game that most people are not used to. And the fact is that everyone's communicating to either, all of you win or all of you lose. You're trying to beat the board game. And I don't know. I just find those easier to teach new people and to get them in the hobby.
Except pandemic. We're all over pandemic.
That's right.
Because we lived it for 3 years.
Yeah, but I think and one part of the co-op thing too is it's a very different kind of gaming, right? Different style, and so they're like it's kind of a mind blown thing to start with. But then nobody has to look dumb because you all win or lose together, right? And I think people are anxious about, games are kind of a test of intelligence, I guess. And if I don't win, then I just. And so co-ops are nice because they let you say, no, this is all of us. We're working together. We can figure this out. And if we don't, we just lose. There's no judgment that goes along with that. And it eases, I think, the exposure to then other different kinds of games.
And then some people just take that as a challenge to play the game again to try to win it.
Yes. Yeah. That's the worst is winning the co-op on the
Horror Second Edition. Still hasn't happened.
Yeah.
That's fair. Okay, so Mythicon's coming up November 10th through the 12th. University, Hilton, Charlotte, North Carolina. Tickets are still available. You can, as always, the link to the website is below in the show notes. It's been there since May, so hopefully people will have no problem finding it. So that's... Go ahead. Sorry.
I nearly forgot the most important thing. We're going to have food trucks this year.
Oh, there we go. This is good news.
That's huge.
That is
so not only are we going to have food trucks, but our convention itself is putting together a booth area, which we had last year as well, called Mythic Munchies. And it's brought to you by our special goober-ish's mascot called Drool. And so you could get snacks and stuff from us, and you could get food obviously from the food trucks that are going to be outside, and the area itself has a lot of food choices. So you won't be, wanting for places to go and eat.
No, that's
awesome.
That is a great spot up there. There are a lot of food choices, but I love the fact that you've got a bunch of different food trucks coming into play. Charlotte, if you don't know, Charlotte's got a very robust foodie culture, and the food trucks in town are a big part of that. There are a number of them that are featured on the Food Network all the time. I know of one food truck owner who actually competed on Chopped. Tara Ebersold of the Blue Barn Bistro. She has a truck around town as well as a standalone at Camp North End. So check that out if you're up that way. So there's just lots of, because Johnson and Wales, I think, kicks off a lot of innovative food trucks in the area just with their graduates. And that's very cool.
Yeah. And we also have, unrelated to food trucks, but we have Griffin Heart, who is our volunteer group. It's our charity guys. These guys specialize in charities, and we thought, we always wanted to do a charity, but these guys came up to us, talked to us, a really good group of guys, and we just let them run the show when it comes to charity work.
So what they do are raffles. Our charity raffles. So everyone who comes to the convention is going to get a Griffin Heart ticket for one of their charity raffles, which they usually run like 5 or 6. That'll be free with the badge. But if there are multiple raffles that are going on. All of them are themed. They usually have just piles of stuff in there. I mean, I can't even describe it. It's pretty impressive. So they're always very popular. During the course of the weekend, you can purchase tickets directly from the Griffin Heart team and place them in any of the raffles that you want to get in on. And then I think it's Saturday night. They're going to be that's when they're going to do the raffle drawings. Another thing. I keep thinking of more things that we're doing this year.
Yeah.
That's okay.
It's going to be a busy con.
That's awesome.
But on Saturday evening, we are hosting if you've ever been to Mega Moose Con, they do it's basically a flash flea market. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's a 1 hour flea market. So we have limited spots available. You can actually pre-register if you want to sell on the tabletop.events site now. And I think we only have like 7 slots available, I think, because we're only having it in like one room. But it's an experiment. It's an experiment where if it comes out well, then we may expand this next year. But we want to see how it turns out this time. But we've got, but basically it's going to be 1 hour in the 2 hour block between our afternoon session and evening session. So it won't be interfering with any of our major game sessions. So as many people who want to attend can, and basically folks can come in and sell their used games. And
as gamers, we tend to collect things, and sometimes
it's just a thing.
And sometimes we want to clean out the space to make room for some new things. Let
me see if I can turn off my virtual background here. We tend to collect things. So yeah.
As somebody who puts the whore in hoarding, I certainly understand. I'm sitting here with like 220 games on Kalax's on the other side of this screen, and that's not even a dent in what James has at his house.
Yeah, so I might know a little bit about what you're talking about. I don't know.
Yeah.
Not like I feel personally attacked.
It's all Warhammer stuff. Yeah.
Nice.
Mostly.
I'll have to show you my 3.
You guys know who we're talking about.
Oh yeah. I know very well. I have flea market stories that we'll save for a different.
I actually got a super deal at the flea market down at Mega Moose. The first 2 Shadows of Brimstone box games for $30 a pop.
Nice.
So, yeah.
I got Twilight Imperium for 20.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that was a good. Right when the doors open, I was like, "Oh my god!" Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
I think somebody was moving. That's the only explanation I can.
Yeah, seriously, had to get those giant boxes out of there.
Or divorcing.
Or about to, if they didn't get rid of all the.
This is fair.
That's fair.
And it had been a well-loved game, and so there were spiral-bound like extra rules that you could hand out to everybody in cheat sheets. So laminated. Oh my god! I was like, wow. Well, the lamination was worth the $20. So
yeah, they said you
totally
good.
Yeah. Oh, they did. Whoever you are.
All right. Well, there's a lot to consume at Mythicon coming up. There'll be a lot of new things there. I'm excited to hear about all the add-ons. I hope that all those things, from the food trucks to the flea market, become an ongoing thing, because I think it would also be kind of cool at some point during the year, just spitballing with you guys, to maybe do the flea market for charity bit too, where it's at a separate time and place, and it's a great way to also fund the charity as well as clear out some games. That could be a cool thing too. So November 10th through the 12th. Mythicon, we're very excited to have the first official Charlotte-based Mythicon this year, and look forward to this going more than 25 years on this side, as Charlotte continues to be a great hub for this. So, James and I have a thing on our podcast where we generally talk about what is on our table. So before James and I quickly talk about that, is there anything on y'all's table, Nick or Tuna, that you guys are playing at the moment?
Nick, I'll let you go first. Okay.
Okay.
That's
So currently, I'm in a friend's Heath Millen's Fallout Savage Worlds Fallout game, which he does an excellent job, and it's just dripping with Fallout themes. So if you like the video game, I tend to run a lot of one shots for Savage Worlds. Unfortunately, I don't have any kind of ongoing game for myself. But I'm like I said, I'm in Heath's. I'm just learning how to play Space Base and Star Realms and D&D: The Legend of Drizzt box. So that seems pretty cool. And I believe that's all that I've got going on at the moment. I've always liked pickup games like Splendor and things like that.
I almost wore my Drizzt t-shirt today. I chose this instead.
Nice. Very nice.
Very nice.
So I am also in Heath's Fallout game with Nick. So that's really the only role-playing game I've got going on right now. Most of what I do nowadays is Warhammer 40K 10th edition.
Well, I've seen you in there with the Savage World game, I believe on a Sunday afternoon.
Yep.
So know where that is, know where to find you.
How's 10th edition treating you?
I'm loving it. I think it's definitely the best edition that they've come out with. One of the things that's really nice right now is that if you already have the miniatures, all the rules are free. For the first time, like in ever, they released for 10th edition, everything was changed so significantly that they had to release entirely new army rules for everyone. So they released index sets for each army. And those print out onto cards. Now you can purchase the cards, but I have a color printer with duplexing, so I printed my cards. And but yeah, it's very easy to get into it right now. And they're focusing on game balance and competitive play a little bit more with this edition. But that doesn't mean that they're slacking on the narrative play, which is what I'm more interested in as well. But they really are making the game very balanced and very less feel bad moments is what they're trying to focus on, which that can happen in games. As we all are aware.
Well, I'm just glad to know that Games Workshop is allowing you to do something that the United States Mahjong Association will not, and that is to print out the rules. You got to buy the cards.
Oh wow!
Oh, Lord.
But I will say this. My brother who lives in Idaho was here back in April, and I walked him into the game store, and there was a big. They do that quarterly. The whole back room is nothing but Warhammer kind of thing. And my brother went to the Citadel back in the 70s, and they used to have like week-long Risk games going on. And he saw Warhammer and immediately thought 3D Risk. And so now he is. I hooked him up with a Warhammer store in Boise, which is where he lives, and 10th edition was just coming out. And it was just like the perfect intersection of him wanting to know a little bit more about it and the rules about to change. So I'm curious to see how that's going to play out.
Yeah, they've made the game extremely newbie friendly because they've released they've released these combat patrol sets. So it's literally one box of minis, and they have an entire rule set that's made so that you can play with just that one box of minis. So that's a huge deal for 10th edition because it makes it very, very accessible.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. So James, that's I see awesome. You have a game on your table right now. What do you got going on?
Yeah, I got a couple. Nick was reminding me that I've got we have game night coming up this next Saturday. So this coming Saturday, and I was looking at like old sort of Halloween themed games. So my thumb just appeared there. So like Fearsome Floors, the old Freedom and Frieza, and yep, there it is. and Ghost Chase, which is just a ghost. One person plays a ghost who runs around in a big mansion, and then the other ghost chasers trying to find him. So like a very, very stripped down Fury of Dracula, that kind of asymmetrical chase thing. But this past week, one of the ones I'm going to be dropping on the table for the sort of slightly heavier gamers is Coimbra. So I've been playing through that. That's a 2018, and I cannot remember. Let's see who the designers were of this one. It was Flaminia Brasini and Virginio Gili, who have done a bunch of other stuff too. It's an Eggert Spiele game. And the fun thing about this game is that you use dice. So you start with dice, people draft, and then you have a little holder that's your color. So you grab different colored dice. You make sure that the same pip number, the same number is up each time where you move it around. Then you use it for two different things. One, it's important. The pip number is going to be how much you pay to buy a certain thing. And then the color is going to help you move up and then get bonuses, or just get bonuses on 4 different tracks. So this use of dice is kind of fun, and I'm trying to find sort of interesting things for these people to do. Otherwise, you're in Portugal in the 1600s, and you're a minor noble trying to influence things. Yeah, so it's who knows, but the multi-use dice is pretty fun. There's a interesting sort of scramble for who gets what in tension between it's a good high number, but damn it, I'm going to have to pay that high number, and I don't have the money. So it's nice decisions there.
Sounds cool.
Yeah, it's super cool, and the art is absolutely brilliant. It's in an age where you get a whole lot of earth tones. It's more jewel. It is Chris Pilliams who did it. Yeah.
Well, we're kind of in a similar boat. I mean, it's October, so we generally pull out our Halloween games. We have Horrified, which we like to play, which is a great co-op.
Yep.
We have the Haunted Mansion game, the Disney Haunted Mansion game, which is a Ravensburger.
One of those.
It's pretty good.
In Target.
As I mentioned, we are playing Mists Over Carcassonne at the moment. And if you're familiar with Carcassonne, it's very much the same, except you're playing as a co-op now. And
that's very cool.
You're actually,
I may have to look at that.
There's 6 different levels. So the first level, you and your other players are trying to get to the 50 before there are 15 ghosts out on the field. And there are ways that you can get rid of the ghosts. Some you can choose not to take points. Instead, you get rid of ghosts, or you enclose all the mist and then they're gone. Then with each level, they add a level of complexity where they add cemeteries, where if you want to get rid of all the ghosts around the cemeteries, once you have it surrounded, you have to take one of your meeples and basically put them in the cemetery. They're dead. Yeah. So it's like each level gets a little bit more. It's very much in line. If you've seen, Race to the Raft by, the guy from City of Kings. My wife's going to kill me for not remembering his name because she loves him. Anyways, the City of Kings, Isle of Cats people, they have the Race to the Raft, and that has multiple levels, very much like an episodic kind of thing. So it's kind of like that approach. When we're literally just got it on the table. We've played it a couple of games, and so we're going to try to do that. And then I'm bound and determined to get Sleepy Hollow out. I have yet to play it. I have it. And I'd love to try to get Blood on the Clock Tower out before Halloween. So those are 2 things I'm trying to get out. But right now, that's kind of what's on our table right now is the Carcassonne. But we're going to do
2 of my favorite horror games that I haven't played in a long while are I don't know if you guys have played them, but Mansions of Madness and Dead of Winter. Those 2 are 2 of my favorites, but I just haven't played them in so long. You guys are
anytime you want, I've got it all.
And I do have the house on Haunted Hill or whatever that is.
Betrayal.
Yeah, Betrayal.
House on Hill. Yeah,
that's
I have Betrayal too.
Yep.
I never picked up Widow's Walk, but I did pick. I have Betrayal, and I have the D&D Betrayal.
I have
Baldur's Gate.
I have the latest edition, and I was able to actually find an insert for it that I was able to 3D print.
Ooh,
awesome.
nice!
Which made it really, really great to get it on the table fast, which is something I like to do. Well, just before we go, the other thing we talk about very quickly is games that we've picked up, and I actually have a long list. I'm not going to get into a lot of detail with them, but just to kind of say what they were, and then we can kind of close this out. So as I mentioned, I was up in Durham last week. I was up there for a wedding, and I had an opportunity to go into Atomic Empire. Atomic Empire is a really nice game store, and they really like to showcase local game designers. And they're usually local game designers that we don't see down here as often. And so I picked up a game called Wolves. It was a 2022 release by a Raleigh-based designer. Their names were Ashwin Kamath and Clarence Simpson, with the art being done by Paulina Linjama, and basically are a pack of wolves. I haven't opened it yet because it's one of those that we got to go into the tree for Christmas, so it may be a little bit before I actually get it on the table. But we picked that up, and then for the last few years that we've been going there, we've seen this one game called Tiger Czar. If you remember Tiger King.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. This game is nowhere to be found on Board Game Geek that I can find, but I did find the Kickstarter for it. Local Raleigh designer. Looks like it could be a fun novelty game. We just felt like we should get it to support local, and that it kind of, we remembered the pandemic and watching Tiger King, so we thought it might be a good conversation piece later. And then the last thing I'll say is that, because I don't want to get deep in the weeds here, all those Kickstarters that have been backed up in China or backed up in the ports on the East Coast or the West Coast, evidently they're breaking through. Because
Oh my God, yeah.
I got a series of 6 deliveries since we last met, James.
I'm seeing this. Oh, good Lord, man.
So
That's amazing.
So Crown's Chest, for those of you who've been on this podcast before, know that this is an Indiegogo I backed 3 years ago that I believed was beginning to think it was a scam. And it finally showed up.
Hooray.
I have the box right here. You just sort of see it. It's a nice cylindrical kind of game. Nice portable chess set. I like it because I can take it on my bike and go up to Freedom Park and challenge somebody to a game of chess.
Awesome.
Then just briefly, the other Kickstarters that came in, I had ordered the Castles of Mad King Ludwig, and then right after that arrived, they created a new Kickstarter called Expansions to take that even larger. And my wife and I love that game, so I picked that up, it arrived, I should say. Oceans, Legends of the Deep. I have the Ocean Kickstarter edition from the first go round. This is an expansion of that adds some, sea monsters and stuff to it. My copy of Forever Home, which is not a sequel. It's a sequel. It's not an expansion. It's a sequel to Dog Park. Same designers. It's all about rescue dogs. It arrived in the last week. And then, James, I mentioned this the last time that I said it had shipped. Zoo Tycoon, the board game.
It's here, huh?
Showed up this week.
Awesome.
Validated it today that it was in there. So my kids were big fans of that video game as they were growing up. So James and I defiantly said on this program over a year ago that I was not going to back it. And then I backed it in between that episode and the next episode. And I'm weak. And then finally, Leaf from Weird City Games showed up. So it's a... that fall aesthetic that's kind of right in line with Canopy and Wingspan and all that stuff. So again, all these have shown up. All of these are probably going to go in some sort of gift wrap and sit under the tree until December because we just don't have time to take them off the shelf of shame that are shrink wrapped at the moment. So that's
the shelf of shame.
That's all that is. That's what I call it. If it's on the
just a shelf.
Well, okay, shelves of shame. Are you happy now? Are you happy now?
Shelving units of shame.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
There's a U-Haul storage place down the. It's a 25 by 25.
I just showed you 3 72-inch racks behind me. It's all shame. All shame.
Anyway, so that's kind of what's arrived here. I don't know if anybody else has got anything else to say.
I mean, as far as new acquisitions, like I was saying before, Nick and I have been traveling the state visiting game stores, and
that's awesome.
Inevitably, you can't go visit a game store without browsing the wares and inevitably kind of finding something that you want. But there was one particular game store out in Salisbury, and the Comic Mon store, and they have, if you ever go out to see them, they have a dual storefront. So one side is the actual retail shop. The other side is where people can go to play, but they have decked that thing out like crazy. I mean, it's like made up as a dungeon. With tables in there, and there's a wooden bar, and yeah, I mean, it's crazy. It's really, really impressive. But if you go all the way back to the back of Common Store, the retail side, they have a table of board games and everything that are 50% off.
Oh wow!
Nice.
And I hurt myself there. I was texting Karen, please, you've got to talk me down. And instead she bought, more stuff, and so
She's
we ended up,
Yeah.
oh yes. That's why I married her. But in one of many reasons. We ended up walking out of there with like 7 games and stuff.
Awesome.
But one of the ones we found was this one. This one wasn't on the discount rack, but it's called Fit to Print.
Oh yeah, I've been hearing about that. Yep.
Yeah, and
not the discount rack at all. That is that just come off the shelf right now. Yeah.
But it's from AEG, and the idea is that you're laying out a flat sheet like a newspaper. Front page, and so they have little pieces that you can.
And it's a real time game too, right? You've got like a 5-minute timer to do it.
I haven't actually looked at the rules yet. It is still in shrink, but it looks like it's going to be fun. Yeah. So that one's kind of cool. And then
that's exciting. I'm jealous.
And picked up Game of Thrones, the board game, for $20. So it's
nice.
Hey, the newer edition.
Wow.
Too.
And for our younger listeners, I will put a link into what a newspaper is.
Thanks. Yeah.
And that's the one with like anthropomorphized animals, right? So you're like little bitty forest creatures putting together. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Like the cover has a fox with a press hat and a camera. It's just great.
Yep.
Love it. All right. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for being on the program today. Richard Fortuna and Nick Polinas of Mythicon, that is going to be at the University Hilton in Charlotte, North Carolina, the weekend of November 10th through the 12th. As usual, you can follow us at layitonthetable.show, where you can find us on your favorite podcast device. If you're so inclined, please go to Apple Podcasts and leave us a ranking or a review or a snarky comment because of something that I said that offended you, probably about Warhammer. Then, of course, you can find us on our guild at Board Game Geek, which also has links to our podcast if that's where you pick up your gaming podcasts. And then finally, you can find the video version of this on Geek and Southern on the YouTube, where you'll also see some examples of us trying to play D&D, where it's a bunch of folks chasing Strahd in Appalachia. So as per usual, I am Joe Mahaffey. I am not bored. I am board gaming.
I'm James Engelhart, hoping that all your tiebreakers break your way.
We'll see you next time, folks.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.
1, 2, 3, 4.